What's wrong with Bryan Cranston these days? The Breaking Bad actor's apparently decided to put his stardom on the line to become yet another ill-informed political mouthpiece for the current Democratic ticket. But he's been real quiet lately after Megyn Kelly just exposed something about him, which you need to see for yourself. First, though, take a look at the shallow sloganeering he did on the abortion debate just last week.
I am not a politician. I am not a doctor or a lawyer, but I played all of those on television. But I am a father of a daughter, and it's important to me for her life now and for the future and other fathers' daughters to be able to have within their lifetime the fundamental right of freedom of choice. There should not be anyone but them deciding what happens to their own body. And that's why I'm enthusiastically supporting Vice President Harris and Governor Walz.
Doesn't that tell you something? The modern Democratic Party is so starved of star power at the moment that they've had to bring out someone like Bryan Cranston to rubber stamp the political sound bites. That's because for most of the last 3 years, even some of the most vocal Democrat supporters have taken their hand off supporting the party's politics and performance, realizing they can no longer jeopardize their own reputations to save a sinking ship of a presidency. That includes people like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Michael Rappaport, and even to a degree Rob Schneider. And even just on the substance of these arguments, it's that they're not even good enough to warrant that needless applause from the audience in attendance. By the way, subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit the notification bell for more discussions like this. Now, it's almost like the current Democratic voter base is being deliberately starved of good ideas and political policies, not just by the current nominee, Kamala Harris, but also the people that the campaign is sending out to cheerlead on her behalf. The abortion debate itself is obviously a highly contested one in the country, but there are several layers to it, including a legal, moral, and political, and even religious angles. And that's why when someone like Bryan Cranston has to come out and campaign over this issue, it's worth asking just how much political patience he really has with people who might disagree with him. Unfortunately, we got an answer to that pretty quickly when Megyn Kelly came out and exposed on X the narrow political blinders that Bryan has put on, to the point of cutting ties with his best friends if they happen to disagree with him politically or vote for a different party. Here's what Megyn wrote while quoting a clip of his speech at the Democratic rally. Bryan Cranston ended his lifelong friendship with someone very close to him because his friend is a Republican/Trump supporter. I know the friend well. Only the most rabid, deranged person would do this. Remember that when you see him starring in something, if you vote Trump, he can't stand you. And Megyn Kelly made it a point of making it heard by mentioning it on her show as well.
Enter into the conversation Bryan Cranston, who I loved in Breaking Bad, just like most Americans who saw the series, but who I cannot stand as an individual. And the reason I can't stand Bryan Cranston is personal. He's standing in front of a sign that reads, fighting for reproductive freedom. So, Allie Beth, the reason I don't like Bryan Cranston is because a dear friend of mine was one of this guy's closest friends for decades. And Bryan Cranston dumped my friend as his friend because he's a Republican and voted for Trump. He's not even like a huge Republican. He's a Republican. I mean, he's a right-leaning guy. But he ended their lifelong friendship just because he turned out to be a Trump supporter. That is so vile and so disgusting and is right on brand with what we just heard there.
That's not someone you need to be taking advice from, especially if this is how compartmentalized his politics and his worldview is, even when he's lived an entire life seeing what it can lead to. And what's sad is that Bryan Cranston may not even be an isolated example of this. Polls and surveys have repeatedly shown that a large segment of Democrats tend to have a lower view of Republicans than vice versa, seeing them as gullible, cultish, and unfit for friendship. This is a poll from Axios a couple years ago that revealed how a massive 37% of Democrats respond that they wouldn't like to have a Republican or conservative as a friend, versus just 5% of Republicans saying the same. Isn't that a reminder of the level of political polarization that exists, as well as the need for political dialogue? Now, if you're expecting that to happen from someone like Bryan Cranston, you'd be mistaken. Here's a clip of him saying something absurd that the slogan, "Make America Great Again," is racist.
You know, this conversation I had with Bill, we're talking about critical race theory, and I think it's imperative that it's taught, that we look at our history Much the same, I think, that Germany has looked at their history in involvement in the wars, that the 1 and 2, and embrace it and say, this is where we went wrong. This is how it went wrong. When I see the Make America Great Again, my comment is, do you accept that that could possibly be construed as a racist remark? And most people, a lot of people go, how could that be racist? Make America great again? I said, so just ask yourself from an African-American experience, when was it ever great in America for the African-American? When was it great? So if you're making it great again, it's not including them.
What?
How do you even argue with someone like this anymore? The idea that the MAGA slogan is racist is just as ill-informed as the tirade you saw from him on the abortion issue, except the difference is that people just aren't listening anymore. The public at large is tired of listening to celebrities thinking that they have any sway at all in the political sphere, or somehow their star power is able to translate to completely different areas. That's why most of Hollywood has been much more silent than usual this time around, and it's pretty clear why. The last 3 weeks in particular have been a pretty rough ride for the Kamala Harris campaign as her poll numbers slide into the 30s. Meanwhile, the Biden presidency looks as shaky as it does, with more than 70% of the country believing America's on the wrong track. No celebrity wants to attach their name to a mess like this. As for Bryan Cranston, he's been pretty loud and vocal about his disdain for Trump from all the way back in 2016. Watch him claim that someone like Donald Trump can never become president just a few months before he had to eat those words and understand the new political reality of the country.
Would you ever play Trump?
Yes, I'm fascinated by Trump because he is a classic, tragic Shakespearean character. You know, what's so amazing about Donald Trump is that he's unabashedly a demagogue. He talks about issues and problems, and if you listen to that, you would think that everything is horrible. Everything is just horrible. He also doesn't present any solutions. I'm just going to make it great. It'll be great again. I can guarantee it. Great again. We're going to work great deals. It's going to be fantastic. Everything's going to be huge. It's going to be great. Great, great, great. Huge. Problem, problem, problem. Great, great, great. And you go, he's saying nothing. He has no ideas. He's in a remarkable, that's why he's so Shakespearean, because he's just unlike anyone we've ever seen in that realm.
Do you think he could win?
It's not real to me that he could win. It would be just the most bizarre thing imaginable. I don't think he's going to win.
That wasn't a great impression, but at least we know where he stood for the last 8 years. With just over 2 weeks left until the election, we're probably going to see much more desperate attempts from the Democrats to try and shore up their popularity in desperation. But this example tells you that these efforts might be futile after all. Let me know in the comments what you think, and share this video with people that need to see it. Everything apart from that, we'll have to wait to see America's potential landscape shifts on Election Day.